Hello everyone, and welcome back to the post-game and final episode of Berserk and the Band of the Hawk. So, this is the review, finally, yes. A lot of things happened, I didn't feel right, then there was a lot of work, I was doing overtime, and generally didn't feel very healthy for a longer period of time. So that kinda pushed the review back, and I wanted to be on time with my other LPs, so yeah, the review naturally got pushed back, and my other new idea got pushed back as well. But now, finally, when things stopped becoming hectic, I have enough strength and enough time to realize some of my ideas that have been left. And one of them is this review. Whoops, I didn't know what that was. One of them is this review, so we're finally going at it. Boys and ladies and everyone, finally, Berserk review. So, at first we'll start with the important points, as always in my reviews, and that is 1. This review is subjective, as all reviews are. This is my opinion, this is what I think of the game, and other opinions may vary. Your opinion may be vastly different than mine. And take into account that I also am very fond of the Berserk manga. Though the last time I've read it was years and years ago. I was probably in high school then. So that was more than 10 years ago. More than 10 years ago. So yeah, that's first point. The second point is, this and every other game that I play and review is bought with my own money. And that means no one is paying for this review, no one is paying me to say some exact things, good or bad, and no one influences what I say. It's all me, and it's all what I think. That's the second point. The third point is, this review is spoiler-free. Although Berserk is a part of a big franchise, with anime and of course the manga, and many different games. I think there's at least 3 or 4 different Berserk games, starting from the PS1 if I recall. So the story should be well known for most of you, and if not well known, maybe some events are known to you through memes and internet culture, and internet videos and images, so yeah. I will stay spoiler free even though. So that's number 3. Also to add, well, Berserk is one of the best-selling manga series of all time, but some people may not be interested in the IP itself, but would be interested in a game of the musou genre. So yeah, they could watch this video. So that's why I will also stay away from trying to spoil the events in the story. But if you watch my videos, there are some, besides the information that we get from the game, I do give you information from the manga itself, and from other sources that I gather sometimes, like interviews or something like that. So yeah. And the fourth point, the last one, this video will be divided into sections. All sections will have timestamps that you can find below, either at the video itself, the timeline of the video, or in the description of the video. So if you're interested in only certain parts, feel free to pick and choose. So, that would be the important parts, as always, before we begin a review. So, yeah, this is the last one. And let me wholeheartedly welcome you to the Berserk review, everyone. So, let us begin. The first part. And thanks to the YouTube magic and editing, you'll see it on the screen. That would be the general overview of the game. Check if I'm recording. Yes, I am. So, first of all, Berserk and the Band of the Hawk is an entry in a genre called musou. And the main selling point of this genre is that the player that controls one character faces hundreds and hundreds of enemies by himself. This time, we do it enveloped in the dark world of Berserk. So, the fans of the manga will feel right at home. In the original work, Guts, and along the way, some companions that joined him, faced numerous, potentially hopeless battles, surrounded by enemy soldiers and later on monsters. In this game, players can retrace those events and help our heroes in their journey while reliving the most important moments from the manga. And did I say heroes? Yes I did, because apart from Guts, Guts is not the only one that can fight a great battle against many foes. As you can see here, we can unlock, in various different scenarios, a lot more other characters. And not every one of those characters is a protagonist, if you could say like that. You have characters like Wild, like Zod, like Griffith, but also like Casca, Judo, Serpico. So yeah, there is a variety of playable characters, and they will be available as the story progresses. In addition, like I said, apart from the Band of the Hawk characters, we get access to other ones as the story progresses, and that includes ones with, let us say, extraordinary powers, such as Wild and Zod here. As you can guess by their appearance, they're not precisely standard soldiers. So, apart from hacking and slashing, we can enjoy this game with different playstyles that provide a different set of skills, and in Shirkei's case, also spells. Yeah. The story itself is told through in-game dialogue, briefings, as you can see here, additional event stories, where characters spend some time with each other and go through dialogues that provide supplemental information to the events that are taking place in the world right now, where we are. And from what I gathered, oh yeah, and there's also animated scenes, which, for what I remember and for what I saw, are some heavy edited scenes from the Golden Age arc movie trilogy. I think it was a trilogy from the Golden Age movie, and I think potentially, I am not sure about that. Maybe from the newer anime, that CGI one, but mainly I think that it's from the movie, from the Golden Age movie. So yeah, so those scenes focus primarily on the Golden Age arc, and from what I can tell, the creators supplemented them with additional dialogue, because after the animation itself ends, after the cutscene ends, there are, well, they're not so sparse. There are quite frequently moments where the characters are standing and supplementing what happened with some additional dialogue. And that dialogue, from what I recall, I'm not so sure after so many years, but a couple of scenes that I saw reminded me that that dialogue was present in the manga and not so in the anime. So the director or the team had a really genius idea here, that using the animation that was present and that they have the rights to use, I guess, given them by the creators, they edited some scenes and supplemented them with additional info from the manga. That way they didn't need to animate, and they didn't leave us with some lacking questions about what's happening. So that was quite a good idea, and that's definitely a plus for them. Yeah, and they're placed throughout the whole story. So that's pretty nice. An additional thing that's worth noting is that, unfortunately, we won't get the full story here. No. I would advise you, if you play this and you like what you see, you like the events, you like the the places where the battles take part, the premise that with every mission that you hear and either read or see in the cutscenes, if you like it, I would advise to either look at the manga if it's available, or maybe if there's a rerun or if you can find the old anime from 1907. I can't with a clear heart, I cannot suggest you watch the newer anime. I tried watching, and when the CGI scenes kicked up, it wasn't the best animation. It wasn't. I don't know if it was limited by budget, technology, or both, but I strongly advise you look at the old anime. Yeah. But if you are a reader, I would even more so advise looking at the manga, because for one thing that Kentaro Miura, the author, is known, is the exceptional art style that goes into the manga. It's really, the art style is out of this world. The details and the way it changes throughout the story. You can see Guts' character and Miura's art style evolve throughout the years. It's really something. The art style is really something. Also, additionally to what I've shown you, you can go inside the game menu to, I think it's gallery, and here you can view info about all the characters, see how they looked. You can view the dictionary, which has some quite abridged info about various events or people. You can review events that happened. You can review the cutscenes. You can listen to music from the game, which we actually quite frequently don't remember from my playthrough, because I needed to kinda go a little bit low on the volume for my voice to be not mumbly, you know? You can view the collection of items and sub-weapons you acquired throughout the game. And the awards that you get from collecting behelets from the in-game missions. Kinda weird. Whoa, and some are not so safe for work, as you can tell going by some panels here. So yeah, that's also a thing to remember. And that would be the general overview. So I now will shift to the next section. And that next section is story. So, as I said in the quick overview, this game follows, in a loose way, the story of 4 arcs of the Berserk manga, if I'm not mistaken. And that is the Black Swordsman arc, the Golden Age arc, the Conviction arc, and the Millennium Falcon arc, which you can see above the description, above the difficulty and the description, mission description. So we have the Golden Age, the Black Swordsman, the Conviction, as I said, and the Millennium Falcon, which is named the Hawk of the Millennium Empire here. I guess difference in translation. So yeah, I actually was thorough with it, and it's exactly the 4 story arcs. So they are not followed 100% the same way, and that kind of makes me wonder why. To be honest, I wanted, but I didn't have time to check how the development of the game was with the manga progressing. Because if, for example, the Millennium Falcon arc kinda intersected with at that time when Miura was writing that arc, I can see this being potentially why some things changed. Because Miura was frequently on very long hiatuses, and that's why the story of Berserk didn't progress as fast as everyone wanted to. And this could be a factor in those changes. So, like I said, the most prominent for me, is the last arc, especially the one that deals with the Kushan Empire. The way Ganishka is handled, one of the apostles that Guts faced, and the war with him is, well, yes, it is a bit different than what we saw in the manga, and that bit is, well, highly generous coming from me, but I don't want to spoil you. If you saw the Let's Play, and if you know what happened, you kinda get what I mean. But more or less we get a condensed version of the story, and that's focused on the most important events and characters from these arcs. So you'll get the most part of what's important. There was a great deal of work put in that, besides the events and the quick briefings and the animated scenes, you get as much information as is needed by listening to the dialogues, listening and reading the dialogues, because the creators wanted to supplement as much information as they could to both keep this brief and give you as much information as they could from the manga as well, you know. So yeah, there was a degree of work put into this, so it's not that bad of a deal. Although I did read some comments from various users that they're not quite happy about the way the story was handled. But as for my comments, we'll get to those in a later section. So for those of you that are familiar with the manga or the anime, this will prove as a bit of a refresher, although you can have moments like me that you will just sit here and go, did that go like that? Or am I remembering wrong, or did something was a bit different? Yeah, I had a couple of those moments. So like I said, may not be the best way for people that are highly familiar with the world, but this is a way for totally new people to get interested in the world, the atmosphere, and get a lick of the story for themselves. And maybe it will be a trigger for them to pick the manga. I don't know. It could be possible, you know? It could be a thing. But here is also one problem with the Berserk, and that is the theme and the way it is handled. And for those of you that don't know, Berserk is in fact a series that is aimed at a more, I would say, mature audience, because it wasn't published in the Shonen Jump. I think it was published in the magazine that was aimed at a bit of an older audience, and that is prevalent quite quickly when you know. Basically, if you even watch the first episode or pick up the first manga chapter, you will know what I'm talking about. So yeah, so take that into an account when you'll be picking this up. The fact is that the story. How would I present this to you? The Berserk itself, if you take into account even the written and the drawn part, the manga, can be a bit can differ from itself even in different chapters. And that's especially prevalent in the first, when you read the first arc chronologically that was drawn and released by Miura, and the later ones. And that's because you have to take into account what happened then with Miura himself, his work and his life, because you will probably, and that is quite evident if you see both Guts, the other characters, and the way the story is presented at first, that it's kind of, you know, it looks like quite a manly story handled in a manly way, and that's because Mr. Miura started as an assistant to another known manga author that you probably do know, maybe not through his name or the pen name that he goes with, and that would be Mr. Buronson. So for those of you that this maybe tells you something, and for those that doesn't, I will help you here. He is the author of the very manly and hard-boiled Fist of the North Star series. Yes, that's the author of Kenshiro and his manly manga. Yes, sir. So the influences are definitely seen here in the early acts, in some character designs. Yeah, they are prevalent. But when the first arc, I think it was the Black Swordsman arc, chronologically was first, if I recall correctly. You could be surprised, but it was not very popular then. And that's because I think it's the way it was presented. And because back then there were a lot of those manly hard-boiled manga anime shows. And that's why the series later shifted a bit. And this also has something to do with Miura's own interests and what he liked to read and the stories he liked to read. So yeah, from what I gathered, Miura was a big fan of shoujo manga. For those of you that don't know, shoujo manga is aimed for girls. And for example, we have the Rose of Versailles, or I think it was quite popular at that time, yeah. And that type of manga is aimed mainly is centered around emotions and relationships. So you can see where this is going. This interest helped shape and develop Berserk as a series, because it shifted the narrative from the manly battles, slashing, gore, to more of a relation between characters shaping the story flow type of thing. And if you're familiar with the story, and if you've seen the Let's Play, you definitely know what I'm talking about, because Berserk is as much of a shonen battling monsters, demons, using weapons, spells, strength, as much as it is a story about relations between Guts, between Griffith, between Casca, and between different other characters. That's what pushes the story forward, and that's what became the center of the story. So yeah, and if you're interested in what I said about the origins and Berserk's work being influenced by Miura's own personal story, I will link a description to a very good video done by a YouTube user named Dilcor, and it tells the story of Kentaro Miura himself, and about the evolution of Berserk manga as a series, and about the events of Miura's life. So that will be in the description. I watched the video. It's a very good video, very thoroughly done. There are probably many videos like this on YouTube, but I kinda like this one. As for me, like I said a bit earlier, I always thought that the story of Berserk is mainly the story of Guts and Griffith, because their dynamic is the primary thing that sets most events, even the world-changing ones, into motion, and is a factor that has a high degree of influence on basically everyone that we meet during the story. So yeah, that's my take on it. That Berserk is a story about the relationship between Guts and Griffith. But it's quite I would say sublime, but maybe not as much. It is definitely in the foreground. It's definitely on the foreground, but maybe some people would not look at it like that. But as for me, I think it is so. So that concludes the story part. And now, with a bit of a visual aid, I will invite you to the next part of the review. And that next section will be gameplay. Yes, the good old meat and potatoes. I will personally say that the gameplay element certainly does not disappoint. in delivering that musou feeling. The formula here is when you go into the campaign mode, the story mode, and pick a mission, you'll get either a briefing, the first written briefing, you get either a cutscene, or quite immediately you get thrown into this screen, the briefing screen, where you can get some preparation done, equip your accessories, your sub-weapons, your items, shop for some additional items or accessories, sell, later you get enhancement and amalgamate options. You can then check some infos about your helpers, the army that helps you, about controls, some info about additional quests or side quests to do, or objectives maybe would be better, for you to earn those behelets for that, those pictures that I showed you earlier. You can adjust the settings, you can see the victory conditions, terms of defeat, and you can dive right into the battle. So here, like I said, it does deliver on the musou feeling, as it trusts you right into the thick of the battlefield, gives you tons of enemies, as you can see, to dispatch, slash in a gory and satisfactory way, and it also, what was I gonna say, tons of enemies, yeah, and you'll get different apt methods of disposing them, like sub-weapons, slashing, combos, special attacks, and with some characters, transformations, or other methods of gruesome and extremely satisfying ways to dispatch your enemies. Although, as you could imagine, it's not without faults. As you can see, okay, maybe I will continue my fault. I will intersect the bad things a little bit later in the sentence. So, the serious faults do have some serious influence on the fun factor that you experience in the game itself. So to take it from the top, first off, you're introduced into two modes. The story mode that I'm showing you right now, which gives you degrees of missions and placed inside the story arcs, and the endless eclipse mode. So the story has us mainly playing Guts and experiencing his side of the story throughout the manga arts. This is the first, foremost basic mode of playing. This mode lets us experience different aspects of the game. Its controls teaches us how to get new equipment, how to modify our equipment, and lets us learn the basic systems that the game requires from us to experience the other mode, the Endless Eclipse mode. So every mission that we can pick actually also offers a varying degree of difficulty that you can customize. You can pick. So there's those difficulties I'll show you in the game menu. We don't need to finish this, as I already done the story mode. Yes, return to the main menu. So those difficulties not only make the mission harder, no sir, they also influence things like experience, money, and drops that we get. The difficulties range from easy to Berserk. In my own experience, the hard version, the hard difficulty, is the one to go, because not only you don't need prior knowledge to make this doable, as it's seen in my Let's Play, because it's a blind Let's Play, and I played every mission on hard, and we when we prevailed without any needs of restarting or without any needs of prior knowledge or equipment. But the last difficulty, the Berserk difficulty, does require prior knowledge from you and also good equipment to finish a mission. And in my experience, I've done a couple of missions on Berserk mode. It is not worth it. No. The main premise would be to get a high degree of experience, money, and better jobs. But for you to be tackling the Berserk mode, you're basically already equipped and probably leveled, if not to max. So I don't see this being worth it. If it would drastically change the drops and influence it so that you always get on the hardest missions, on the highest difficulty, the Berserk mode would give you the best drops possible, would give you better chance for the best drops possible, it would be worth it. But no. I tried grinding Berserk mode on high difficulty missions, on full star difficulty missions, and I had trouble getting equipment, good equipment. But when I went to the Endless Eclipse mode, I got the best equipment, the best types of equipment that I used as a basis for my enchanting. So yeah, have it as you may, I'm not fond of the Berserk difficulty. So, the Endless Eclipse, like I said, it's the place where you find the best equipment, and the place where you face the real challenge, needing that best equipment. So, get back, the Endless Eclipse mode is sort of a never-ending dungeon mode. Sort of. Because it does not appear to have a soft cap, unless layer 999 is the soft cap. The hard cap, it does have a sort of a soft cap, because layer 100 is the layer where things are sort of, everything is changing, things are new, and you progress through a degree of, let's say, story type of progression, because it gets substantially harder. Every X floors you get to fight a more powerful, juiced up version of a story boss. They are placed, I would say, chronologically to what you would expect, going from a low layer to a high layer. It's sort of like going through the earlier story to the later parts of the story. It's quite fun, and like I said, you can grind here, not only for XP but also for the best equipment. You get checkpoints every X floors. Don't know if I can. Yeah, I can show you this. It is set. It is fixed. You get those are all the checkpoints you can get. Those are fixed. So yeah, and you can get special rewards. I don't know if I can show you them. Can I? Can I show you them? Let's see if I can show them from this menu. Yes, the desired progress, I think. No, it's not the desired progress. Oh, here we are. The special rewards. And as you can see, if we push through the layers, every X we get some special rewards. And they range from additional usable items, such as the Dragon Slayer, the checkpoints, additional equipables, such as the horses, or even outfits that give special powers to the characters. For example, God's outfit, the Beast of Darkness, gives you permanent access to the Berserker armor mode. Quite potent, if you ask me, and rightly so, as it's a reward for doing the last sort of a soft cap layer. So anywho, those are rewards, and those are the kind of you pick a quest line, a motif that drives you through the layer. It can be sort of like an arena tournament where you fight knights. You can help people go through the layer to save them from being attacked. and other stuff. That influences types of enemies you face or types of side quest thingies you do at each floor. Yeah, so that's quite interesting. I like this. I liked this game mode, and I like the fact that you faced juiced up versions of the bosses. That's always a good thing, to challenge yourself, challenge your abilities, even after finishing the story mode, which would be required for you to get a grasp of the mechanics and characters and get some basic equipment to do this mode. So even though you're quite familiar with the enemies itself, this mode offers you a bit juiced up version of those. But as always, when there are good things, there are also bad things. And as you saw me playing a bit, you can kinda guess where this is going, I think. So, you know, as always in these types of games, whereas either it's Berserk, or it's Dark Souls, or Bloodborne, or other type of musou games probably have the same problem as well. Your biggest enemy, besides the mobs, are the controls and the camera. The camera in this game is bad, and I do mean bad. Maybe you didn't saw that in that quick glimpse when I fought regular enemies, but when you get to fight monstrous enemies that take up most of the screen, the camera starts to fail you, and it fails you hard. Yes, sir. It's quite actually interesting. How did that came into play? Because when finding normal enemies, human-sized soldiers, it's not that bad. It is a bit clunky to control, but as long as they're screen-sized, everything's okay. But the bigger enemies, you have trouble seeing their movements when you're closer up, and you can't fight from range with guts. You have trouble when they're faster, because there are some fast big enemies. You have trouble with the camera sensitivity. You can't rotate it fast enough, well, if you would want to. So yeah, it's kinda bad. It's kinda bad, and it could let you to fail. It could make you fail missions. It could make you die. So that's one thing. So the way, yeah, I'm back to, so I won't lose my train of thought. So the way the whole system here, the controls and cameras implemented, this is, like I said, this holds strong when we're fighting those fodder enemies. Guts movements feel impactful. When you slash enemies, they are flying around, which you saw. You can push them back, you can basically send them flying with your sword, you can hack them, you can slash them, you can combo them, you can burn them, you can blow them up, you can stake them with your crossbow, you can do various things with guts. And this is really good, really well implemented. You get the true gritty feeling of both the Berserk world, its dark atmosphere when body parts are flying, people are flying, blood is everywhere, and also great feeling of the musou type of games where there are hundreds of enemies flying towards you, and on the right side of the screen you get your combo meter and your enemies defeated meter in the thousands. It's adrenaline pumping, blood rushing type of experience. It's good, but everything fails when we meet our first big monster. And that's a shame. Everything goes, well, saying plainly, everything goes to shit. The system falls on its knees. I don't understand that. They didn't implement cancels and ways to opt out of combos besides that strange little dash that Guts has. And I'll show you what I mean. Let's get back to, maybe not even the story mode, let's go to the free mode. And that is a big problem for a game based on fighting multiple enemies. At least in my opinion, it's a big problem, because Guts has some pretty long combos he can do with his sword. We have the basic slash. That's a basic combo, which you can further implement, further supplement using those charge attacks. But the only way to cancel is with this pseudo dash bunny hop thing, and that's the only way. I can't cancel this. No. I can't cancel this. I can only cancel when he's finished that animation. I can't cancel the slashes. He needs to do the animation, then I can do the bunny hop. I can't block cancel anything. I am pushing that. I can't cancel it. I can't cancel the special attacks with the block. I can't do a dodge roll, anything. There are no easily available iframes for you to take advantage of. And that's a problem in this type of game. That is a very big problem. There isn't enough of flexibility here to make you survive that juiced up mode where a lot of heavy hitting monsters are. It also proves a problem in the story mode itself when you're facing some enemies later on. The game itself says we get iframes. I even have... can I show you? I even have evasion up in one. I did have an access. I don't use it because it... Oh yes, I do have it. I do have evasion 99 slot, level 99 slotted, which extends time of the dodge invincibility. So the game outright states we get iframes. But not once. Not even once. I got to use them when I really wanted them to. You could say it's a skill issue, and I'm not trying to say I'm the best player out there when it comes to Berserk. It could very well be a skill issue. But I don't have that problem with using iframes in other games like Dark Souls, Sekiro, or other games like that. But I couldn't very well time them when I wanted to in Berserk. I think I did use some of those iframes, especially when I slotted this against really easy fodder enemies, but when it came to tackling the bosses and those heavy hitting attacks, I couldn't reliably make use of them. So I won't argue that it may be a skill issue, but I also will say that the game does not make it clear, nor does it make it easier even if you slot additional abilities in. And that's only the dodges, but there is also problems with the block. You can block attacks like I showed you, but it's kinda pointless here, because you can block fodder enemies without problems, but those are the attacks that you do not want to block that much, because first off, they don't do very much damage, even on hard difficulty. That's one thing. The second thing is, the attacks that you would want to block, the boss attacks, the heavy hitting attacks, actually crush your block and make you even more vulnerable, because you get into sort of a stun animation, the block crush animation that Guts gets. You can't do anything during it, and you're basically standing there to eat a even more powerful attack. I think the idea was good, but the execution was pretty lackluster, and I don't know why. Because the fighting itself is juicy, is decently implemented, but why isn't it supplemented by additional mechanics? Why? Why? In this type of games where the fighting is the main point, the fighting should feel fluid. You should have a degree of flexibility during fighting. You shouldn't fight the system itself, you should be fighting the enemies. Yeah. And like I said, outside of the slashes, you also get access to a quite varying degree of sub-weapons, ranging from crossbows, repeater crossbows, throwing knives, which are very handy, even though against these enemies, those fodder enemies, they don't seem so, but they're great. You get explosives, they're great against bosses, sorry. You get explosives, you get Gat's iconic hand cannon later on, and you even get access, some characters get access to transformations, which are very cool. Here you have an example of it. Give you a nice degree of power boost, help you defeat normal fodder enemies without much of a problem. In a blink of an eye. You can slash through hundreds of enemies with ease, and you get access to a finishing big attack that's pleasant to look at and has great effects when used in a group of enemies. So yeah, everyone can find something useful for them. Also, on the battlefield you can find items lying around, power-ups. So that's also a good thing. Like you can see, the battle system was well thought out, but for some reason it wasn't exactly well implemented. I don't know. It's hard to say. And even if it holds up what you're looking at now, just see the Let's Play when we're fighting an apostle. It all goes to hell then. Because not only you're fighting the camera, like I said, the other thing that would give you trouble is the iframes, the block, and also at least Guts is built as a character in a way where those heavy slashes that are not freely cancelable would stun the enemy a bit, would send them flying, would devastate their block, etc. It will not work the same on monstrous enemies. Big enemies are not movable by those attacks. They're not stunnable by your flurry of attacks. And they're not easily thrown about like those normal enemies around the map. So not even those big finisher attacks move them much. So yeah, as you can imagine, this makes it substantially harder. And that's also one of the things that shows me that they did not think this through 100%. And how this went past QA, I have no idea. Maybe this was actually what they thought it should be. Maybe this is the whole thing that they wanted it to be. But for me it does not tick all the boxes. Even though it is highly satisfying when fighting fodder enemies, it falls short against those that you really would want to fight. Really, yeah. Unfortunately. And that would be the end of the gameplay section. So, going on to the next section. And the next section is audio. So, as you can hear in the background, the audio is quite positive. This is nothing to write home about. It is decent. We did not get to hear much of it during the Let's Play itself. I won't save, and let us return the Let's Play itself, because if it was higher on the volume level, me and my voice and the way I pronounce things would make it for a weird mumbly experience for you guys, especially since I do mumble quite frequently without it being prominent. But we have a varying degree of tunes. I will let me just switch the volume level a bit higher to present you guys this. Yes, that's a bit better. Gallery again. So yeah, as for other types of audio such as voices, they're good. It's a solid mix. The voices are distinguishable. The voices fit the characters. I did not check if those are the same voice actors that are in the movie or the anime, but that's worth checking. As you can hear, quite dynamic, quite blood pumping, fitting for a game where you fight hundreds of enemies. Yes, but back to the voices. Like I said, they are okay, but there's also one, how could I say it? It's not a con. By all means, it's not a con, but I did have a reason to get this all on low, even the voices, not only the music. Aside from maybe modding my voice a bit, the voices themselves in-game, in battle, can be a bit tiring, because after the third or fourth hour of hearing guts going rah, ah, mwah, while slashing enemies, you can get quite tired of it. Believe me, you can get quite tired of it. So yeah, even if the music is decent and the voices are good, it's nothing to write home about, and you probably wanna get it on the lower level if you're like me and you're X hours in hearing those grunts. But one thing, and I do know it's probably mainly due to copyright issues, one big thing that I cannot forgive in the audio department, and I stand firm by it, is we do not have, maybe that's the second entry in the gallery that I didn't unlock, but it's highly doubtful. I did not check it, but on this whole great list, we do not have the best theme composed, and that is the Guts theme that you can hear on YouTube. It's sublime, it's great, and we do not have it in a game about Berserk. I don't know how this came to be. I do think it may have something to do with copyright issues, but come on, how can we not have Guts' theme? Unfortunate, very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. But that concludes this for the audio section. So, let us head on to the next section. And that next section is video. Well, to be frank, I think it's one of the worst qualities of this game. But that's not due to anyone's fault, not due to the creator's fault or anything. It's due to this being a port of an older game. It's maybe not that old when it comes to Steam, when it goes to Steam releases. It's when I started recording that was only a year, 2 years on Steam. I don't recall exactly, but it was not that old on Steam, but it was not designed for modern consoles. It was not designed for PCs. It is actually a PS3 and Vita game, believe it or not, and it came out in 2016. And it shows. The quality shows, and the platforms for which it was designed shows. The PS3 could handle some nice graphics, but I've seen a lot of PSP and PS Vita games that were kinda lackluster in the video department, and that's due to various things. Same here, maybe they could, maybe they could dish out some better, crispier looking graphics, but probably budget constraints and time constraints worked itself into the mix, But the cutscenes themselves that were ripped from the movie, are quite good. Quite good. They hold up a lot better than the in-game graphics. But like I said, maybe because they're excerpts from the movie or from the anime. So yeah. Those wanting a visual feast will not be satisfied, no. It's not a game for that. As for the video options themselves, the graphics settings, yes. As you can see, we do not get very much of those. Although you have some quality presets. As you can see, I have most of them on high. Does not look high. I don't know. Didn't try finagling with them. It's on custom because I didn't want the blur. I didn't try, but lowering them does not have any point, if you ask me. It would look even worse which is not a goal. And yeah. As for the scenes themselves, I also want to say one thing. I didn't show basically any of them. I shown a couple of them at the start, but that's because, like I mentioned earlier, they're not safe for work. And I'd rather not deal with copyright strikes, copyright claims, or just flagging my videos as something naughty. So yeah, that's that. And I think that's all for the video section. As you can see, as a game designed for that era of consoles, they don't have much settings here. But honestly, even though it's nothing to write home about, it's nothing to praise, it also does not bother me much when I was playing this game, so maybe I'm not... Well, I'm certainly not a person that plays only for graphics, so this doesn't bother me, but if you are a visual enjoyer, I don't think this game will be right for you. So, let us go to the next section. And that next section would be the Misc section. And it is a section which I traditionally do in my reviews, and in this one we take a look towards the internet and what other people say about the game we're playing. We divide this into gaming magazines, gaming magazines, gaming reviewers, professional ones, gaming outlets, and that's one part. And the other part are you, players, normal people. What do you say about the game? So, first, let's tackle the professional reviewers. And we'll start with a service or a magazine or blog, I don't know, it's not known to me, called Mary Station. And they give Berserk 78 out of 100. And the review is, I quote, "Berserk and the Band of the Hawk is an interesting title to satisfy the fans from the manga," I guess it should be of the manga, but I'm reading the way they wrote it, "and to give the chance to crush enemies using guts and the rest of the characters from the series. However, the game roster is quite short with only 8 characters to select, besides having characters which could be interesting to be playable, like Isidro or Farnese. I don't know, man. 8 characters is not a low number of characters to be playable, you know? So think about it as you may. Next up, we have Game World Navigator magazine, and they give Berserk 70 out of 100. And the review is, I quote, "During epic battles, Berserk fits musou genre nicely, but when God's story gets at odds with the game mechanics, things take a turn for the worse." End quote. Yeah, and I agree with that. That's my gripe with the game as well. We'll get more in depth. Well, more in depth. I got in depth when we were talking about the mechanics. I will summarize them when it comes to my review part. So, next up we have everyone's all familiar GameSpot, which gave Berserk a 50 out of 100. Oh. And the review is, I quote, "Even if you're a Warriors fan who knows not to expect a Dark Souls level of gratifying melee combat, Band of the Hawk still deprives you of the juicy sights and sounds that one associates with Guts' savagery. The splashes of red that result from every kill hardly counts as gore." End quote. I don't know if this is an excerpt or if this is a full review, but nah, this must be an excerpt from a review. I got those from Metacritic, so if anyone knows the full review and why they gave it only a 50, you can write about that, because only from this summarization we do not know what they find as a fault, besides that it doesn't fit the theme. Okay, now we have an outlet called Game Planet. And they gave this game a 40 out of 100. And to quote, "Berserk has its moments. The Berserker armor is absolutely hilarious, and getting to play as Zod is awesome, but a few glimmers of amusement aren't enough to save it. The game doesn't have a lot to offer anybody. Newcomers to the series will be left in the dust, longtime fans will be turned off by the clumsy adaptation, and anyone looking for a decent action game should grab a copy of Neo instead. It is likely this will end up as just another forgotten footnote in the series' troubled history of adaptations. Yeah, I did hear something about the adaptations not being on par, but one thing against this review. Like I said, this is fairly recent on Steam, but it itself is not a recent game. It's 2016, and they're saying you should grab Neo. Neo is definitely a newer game than that, even the first Neo, at least I think, so I don't think it's good to point this out, even though for its time this game probably didn't get any laurels or awards, you know. So, that's all I found from the gaming outlets. So now let's look, at least that's from the normal reading ones from Metacritic. Now we'll look at what other players have to say. And here I have something important to say. I would like to say I did not include any 10 out of 10 that were available because they just said awesome, fun, hey, this rocks, whoa, woo, ah, and give it a 10 out of 10. Those are not reviews in my opinion and should not be taken into account. That's why I also didn't take into account 0 out of 10 reviews that only said, this sucks, it's bad, blah, and other things like that, because that also is not a review in my mind, in my opinion. Saying something sucks and not giving any description as of why, or giving any points, why does it fail, what could it do better, what are your thoughts on that? That does not make a review. No. And it not only does it not make a review, it does not get any mindful thing, any mindful thought across. So that is why we are discarding 10 out of 10s and 0 out of 10s that do not have any meaningful text in them. So, without further ado, I go to the players section of the review. This time, this is the first review video where I will read the players' names. In the previous one I didn't do that because I do not have the ability to ask those players for permission, but I thought about it and those reviews are publicly available for you to read, to check and to get a hold of. And if they're publicly available and every one of us can read them, I think it's only fair that I say and present to you the name of the player and his score. If any of the players that gave the score is watching this and doesn't want that to happen, I'm very sorry, and maybe tell me about it if people don't want to be mentioned in those type of sections. So first off we have Nero Galleon. He gave this game 6 out of 10. And he says, to quote, "Band of the Hawk exists in a weird purgatory. Not a great way to experience Miura's opus, not a great way to experience Dynasty Warriors combat, with middling gameplay that struggles to replicate the heights other licensed entries in the Warriors franchise have. The low-budget retelling of the story proves this series is simply destined for weak, underwhelming adaptations, not worth picking up over the manga." Okay, and the next one we have is Jellykey, 7 out of 10. First, let me emphasize, if you're a fan of the Musou Dynasty Warriors games, you will like this game. If you are not, and are not fan of Berserk, you most likely won't care for it. There is a reason Dynasty Warrior games are a niche franchise. You either love them or you hate them. And I picked only 2 for player reviews, as Metacritic wasn't a good place to find the reviews. Maybe Steam reviews would be a better place to look for the reviews, because the older ones that I found when this game wasn't on Steam wasn't very good. The players didn't have many thought-provoking things to say. Those two ones are the best ones I could find on Metacritic, and yeah, I don't like presenting weird reviews that won't tell us anything. So yeah, this will be that for this section, and next we'll move out to the second to last section. And that section is my review. So, a lot has been said in this video, and I honestly think, out of all the hours that I played this, I honestly think there was an idea behind this title. There was. There was also a willingness to make this something out of this, to make this good. But I think, after carefully thinking through all of this and all of that I experienced playing and saw, I think it ultimately fell short. And I have no idea if it's due to budget constraints, time constraints, or maybe we had the ideas, but we lacked the ability to make these ideas come into fruition. I don't know. It's a hard thing to tell from what I have here before me. Don't get me wrong, there is fun to be had here, but at the same time there is even more frustration to be had here. The camera constantly works against us. The coolest enemies from the story that we would want to fight, to slash, to dish out punishment in Guts' name, they're not meant to be fought with this implementation of the fighting system. We do have an ample amount of in-game systems, but at the same time we have a very limited way to move and take advantage of the battlefields that were designed for us to have a glorious and gory battle in. We can hack and slash, but we cannot exert control over the field. We simply lack the ability to do so. We can blow stuff up, but when faced by an ogre or an apostle, this just falls short. We have a lot of abilities to enchant our accessories with. Let me even show you. We have a lot of them. But there are also clear cookie cutter builds, cookie cutter winners here, which you almost need to place on an accessory to be maybe not successful, because with various degrees of skill and commitment you could be successful even without those skills, but why bother when it would make the whole thing even more tedious than it is? Yes, unfortunately. And those are the abilities I'm talking about. The frenzy ones, the death blow ones, the slow burn. We have things like defense up, vitality up, luck up, attack up. We have different equine. We have technique, we have guard, regeneration, dazzle, dexterity, but look at my stats. Even without those I would have high amount of stats, and even with that they all fall short when compared to the frenzy and death blow ones. It's a shame that you can utilize them more in a different playstyle. I could go full on range enhancements actually here, but I only have the sub-weapons to use for range capabilities, with guts at least. So yeah, not much of different playstyles available here, and not much different builds to be built here. Unfortunate. Nevertheless, I did have fun. I did have a lot of fun when I was mowing down hordes of enemies with the Dragon Slayer sword and going into Berserk mode, slashing, dashing, blowing stuff up. It's just that the feeling was a novelty the first time that I did it throughout the story, and it did not last the test of time, which is the full length of the game and its additional endless eclipse mode. Unfortunately. That's why I think the execution and the game itself is a solid 6 out of 10. I do. And that's the consensus from what I've seen of the players' reviews, players' marks. Just that I posted 2 of them. And I think, yes, like I said, this was the most common mark. Most people said 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. But for me, 7 out of 10, not so much. This is lacking. This is lacking too much. While this is really fun, it's lacking in both mechanics, implementation, story, presentation, and quality. First and foremost, we lack quality. And I can't with a clear heart give this more than a 6 out of 10. I cannot. So, now, the last section. And that last section would be the ending. So, first and foremost, I thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. And there is also one thing I would like to say. I am also deeply sorry for this review taking so long to make. I will try to be on time with the next reviews coming out in the future. Just had a weaker time, it seems, and a lot of real life stuff to work. But now, when I feel better and I have more strength and not constrained by work, I think I can push out those reviews in a decent time, or exactly on time when we finish the other titles we're doing. So yes, thank you for staying with me throughout this Berserk review. Thank you for listening, and bye bye, and most importantly, cześć!